Well, first of all, this morning, I want to start with a little story, personal story. If you've never been to Atlanta Airport, there's a rotating art exhibition just as you're leaving Terminal T. You're headed out to baggage claim, going to your car. There are glass cases on either side, and they're usually filled with works by local artists. And I love those shows. So usually, I stop to check out the new pieces. But there was one particular day, 2016, it was March 15th. One portrait stopped me, and this is it. The name of it is Grandma's Glory. It's by Atlanta artist David Roby, an elderly Black woman, bare feet, hair braided, in a simple wooden chair, wrapped in the American flag. I was awestruck. I couldn't move. I know I was in the way and people were rushing by. I just could not take my eyes off of this. It's a stunning image, but also because we don't see Black women like this featured in patriotic works, right? Black women in Americana. I later learned that it was inspired by photographs of Miss Milvertha Hendricks. And she was wrapped in an American flag blanket after Hurricane Katrina. She was waiting to be evacuated in New Orleans. But there's an important difference between the photo and the painting. If you look closely at the woman in this painting, she's not just wrapped in the flag. Look at her hands, needle and thread. I sat with this image this week, again, awestruck, but for a different reason. 91% of Black women, according to CNN exit polls, voted for Vice President Kamala Harris to become the first Black woman president of the United States. Now, Black women were 7% of the electorate. No other demographic across race or gender, age, income, education, married, rural, suburban, nobody supported either candidate so abundantly. Now, Black women have long been the backbone of the Democratic Party, but it warrants repeating, 91%. And less important than who they voted for is what they say they were voting for. Because you know what the most important issue for Harris voters was? According to CNN exit polls, it was not foreign policy. It wasn't the economy. It wasn't immigration. It wasn't abortion rights. It was American democracy. Think of it. This is a country that has never elected a Black woman governor. Of the more than 11,500 members of Congress in the history of America, 60 have been Black women. That's about 0.5%. And next session, 2 Black women will serve in the Senate together for the first time ever. Angela Alsobrooks of Maryland, Elisa Bunt Rochester of Delaware. And still, so many Black women voted to protect the democracy of a country, let's make it plain here, that for centuries denied their grandmothers and their great-grandmothers full participation in it. So yeah, I sat with this painting this week. Grandma's Glory now hangs in my home. And as I've listened to the Black women who voted for Vice President Harris and who say they voted for democracy and are frustrated and hurt, I understand it a little bit more. Black women, needle and thread, mending the flag.
We did our job. So we really, really, really have to stop going above and beyond for these other women that are just going to disappoint us.
I'm tired of coming to other people's defense and protesting for other people and standing up for other people and giving a helping hand to other people. And then when it comes time where I need that helping hand, you don't stretch your hand far enough out for me.
Black folks, Black women especially, your job is to rest. Kick up your feet. Take off the cape. We showed up. We showed out. We spoke up. We did what we were supposed to do. It is now time to rest. And I don't mean rest like be apathetic, because that's not what we need. Some of us do need to organize, but I want you to organize for your community, not to save the country. We're done with that now.
All right, let's have a conversation. Holly Holiday is a lead organizer with the group Win with Black Women and president of Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote. And Liz Minnella is a co-organizer of White Women Answer the Call. Welcome to you both. Holly, I'm going to start with you because there are a lot of black women who are ready to just check out of the coalition. And I'm sure you've seen it. They say, don't call us again because we have shown up for you over and over. And when we needed you, you were not there. So what do you say to those black women this morning who share that sentiment?
Yeah, I say I appreciate it. I appreciate them. I appreciate their work. And the reality is, we are proud of this race. We're disappointed in the outcome. But let's be really clear, we showed up for ourselves. We showed up for the reason that democracy is important is because we recognize that democracy is a system where Black people have opportunity and access. So we care about democracy because we care about our families. And I'd also like to say, and I appreciate you bringing up some of them, we won some stuff in 2024, and we won some stuff because we showed up. Yes, you talked about the senators, but let me add a little bit more context to the Congress. I don't know if people recognize that every single Black woman incumbent in the Congress was reelected, even in some red states, like Amelia Sykes in Ohio and Summer Lee in Pennsylvania. We also elected a new crop of Black women prosecutors, where Black women represent less than 1% of all prosecutors, including re-electing Bonnie Willis, who Trump came after with both barrels, and Monique Worrell in Florida, who DeSantis literally ousted from her job. So I say to Black women, yes, be disappointed. I understand, especially when you're focused on the top of the ticket, but think about what is happening in your own communities that you're making a difference in, because we are seeing lots of wins there.
Liz, I want to play a portion of a conversation that I had the weekend after the big Zoom calls. Black women had a big call for Kamala Harris. White women had a big call for Kamala Harris. I understand you were part of that. Shannon Watts was on the show, and here's a part of our exchange.
And I am hopeful that when we hear these comments from the other side about cat ladies and women who don't have children and taking away women's access to abortion or even IVF, that will get some of the women, the white women who are sitting on the fence, off of the fence, and get them on the right side of this issue. My friend Brittany Packnett Cunningham always says, your whiteness will not save you from what the patriarchy has in store for you. I am hoping that we are further down along this path now, having had Donald Trump as president, and that white women see exactly what is in store for them.
Post-election now, and exit polls not remarkably different than they were in 2016 and 2020. And we should always understand that white women are no more a monolith than Black women are a monolith. But what's your assessment of what we're learning about these numbers and how white women voted this cycle?
So I think it's safe to say we're deeply disappointed in the way that white women voted. I traveled from my hometown to DC on election day, and my friend who traveled with me all through the airport wore a t-shirt that said "Vote Like a Black Woman." And we decidedly did not. We know from exit polling that about 45% of white women voted for Harris, which is arguably worse than it was in 2020. I think it's also interesting to drill down into that statistic and look at the fact that 60% of college-educated white women voted for Harris, and contrast that with the 65% of non-college educated white women who voted for Trump. So I think that points to the fact that we have a messaging problem. We lost an online messaging war to reach non-college educated white women. Ballot initiatives based on democratic principles, like raising the minimum wage and abortion access and paid sick leave, won in states where the Democratic candidate lost. So that tells me we don't have a policy problem. We have a communication problem. We have issues reaching these non-college educated white women and giving them a persuading message that makes them vote in their own self-interest.
Holly, three-quarters, between 75% and 8% of Black men supported Vice President Harris, but about 21% of Black men supported Donald Trump. And so in the next cycle, both parties will have to court Black men, will have to address policies to them to try to build those numbers. I wonder if the near monolithic numbers for Black women serves as a disincentive for the parties to court Black women.
Well, I certainly hope that is not the case because I think that you will find, as I mentioned, when you look across what's happening in states, and we'll have an opportunity to see this next year when we look at states like New Jersey and Virginia, particularly Virginia as they elect a governor, that they've been able to elect a lot of Democrats because Black women are showing up. And if they want to make sure that Black men continue and increase showing up, I suggest that Black women are going to be part of that formula.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how they're doing their analysis on how you do outreach to people, but it actually requires you to have some type of relationship with them. And creating wedges and disenfranchising or seeking to disenfranchise Black women from Black men is literally like breaking up our own family. And if they think that's a winning strategy, I suggest they rethink that one.
Liz, last question to you here. Did the Democrats over rely on the reproductive rights argument to try to build their support among white women?
I think so. When we look at the conversations that were had online, a lot of the white women that voted for Trump were talking about saving their daughters by voting for a candidate that was going to protect them in locker rooms and on their sports teams from trans people. And this messaging hit very hard online. We had no infrastructure to combat it. We thought that this was a winning message and that we could disseminate that message through our traditional campaign structure. We needed to be online. We needed to be seeing this misinformation, this fire hose of misinformation that was being presented to people. And they felt that they were voting in the interest of women and their daughters by protecting them from red dye 40 in Doritos and trans athletes.
Wow.
And it's really terrifying that we were not having the same conversation that we were playing checkers, they were playing chess. We need to develop an online infrastructure with paid influencers who can message to people on the things that resonate with them and can turn their fears into action at the voting booth. The right has done an incredible job of that. They've been investing in that infrastructure for a decade, and we need to stop looking at our playbook and trying to improve upon it and start looking at their playbook.
Liz Minnella, Holly Holiday, I thank you both for the conversation.
Thanks.